Hello, my crafty friends. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to create some cards with some brand new products from Spellbinders and Becca Feeken. She designs the most beautiful, elegant dies. So let me show you what I have here on my desk. This first set is called Mosaic Bracket Card Builder. There are 7 dies in this set. The largest die in the set cuts out the most beautiful mosaic piece. It measures a little over 5.5 by 3. It has a beautiful scripty sentiment that says Happy Holidays, as well as the shadow behind it. There are 2 brackets that kind of nest together to cut out a pretty swoopy design on your cards. It works just great as a standalone set, but it can also coordinate with this set called Pinstripe Bracket Card Builder. This is a hot foil plate set, and you get 2 plates in this. So the bracket in this set hot foils the pretty double-lined design, and then you can cut it out with the first set I showed you, the Mosaic Bracket Card Builder. So that's kind of fun, or of course you could use this set as a standalone set as well. But these just cut it out just so perfectly. We are going to be doing a little bit of hot foiling in this video. And then the third set I have is called Joy Crescent Card Builder. And this one is really beautiful. You get this beautiful stained glass window piece, and inside the window it says Joy to the World. And this die on the outside cuts it out into a little oval. You get a beautiful flower, and then this piece right here you can cut out as well. You can cut out this die, both the outside, and then this piece will cut out the inside if you want, but it gives you lots of options. I'm going to be creating some more elegant looking Christmas cards with these new products. I'm also going to be doing some ink blending with some distress inks on all of these cards today. And I'm going to start out by using the first set that I showed you, the Mosaic Bracket Card Builder. On my first card, I'm going to be using this beautiful mosaic piece over an ink blended panel. So let's start out by doing a little bit of ink blending. I have Festive Berries here. I am going to speed this up. And then I move in to Aged Mahogany. Aged Mahogany is just such a beautiful deep red. I love this color. And then I'm going to use Black Soot and kind of mix the aged mahogany and the black together. It almost turns kind of brownish more than black at this end. But I want to get a really smooth, beautiful blend. And here it is, all ready to go. So I cut out the mosaic a couple of times with some white cardstock. This is just some Nina heavyweight, I think it's 110-pound cardstock. I want this mosaic to completely cover my card panel, which is 5.5 by 4.25. So I'm going to temporarily tape it together. Then I can flip this whole thing over and add some liquid glue behind it. And then I'm going to try and center this on my ink blended card panel. But isn't that just a gorgeous pattern? And I love the bright white cardstock in front of it. Now I can gently peel up the tape. You can see the seam, but it doesn't bother me. For some reason, I think it looks pretty. But you could hide that with a strip of paper if you didn't like that. Now I can flip it over and slowly cut off the overhang. I move pretty slow when I do this, or I inevitably cut into my panel. But it helps to have long, sharp scissors. And I recently got these, well, kind of recently, it's been a few months, but I got these from Spellbinders, and they are the nicest scissors. One more edge to cut off. I do end up cutting this panel down just a little bit more with my paper trimmer so that there is a border around it so that I can mat it with a piece of gold cardstock as well as a piece of black cardstock. This gold cardstock is called Brushed Gold. It's from Spellbinders. It's just a nice subtle gold. I'm going to mat this on a piece of onyx black cardstock. I wanted to have a touch of gold on this card. It just bumps up the elegance of it a little bit. And I'm just gluing everything down flat. Now I can glue, I put this piece of paper here so you could see the black matting, but now I'm going to glue the mosaic piece onto it. This is a very simple card, but it turns out pretty, in my opinion. It would look really gorgeous too if you were to inlay some of these pieces that pop out of the mosaic. But I like to see the ink blended background through it. Next, I'm going to add the sentiment, the Happy Holidays, and I cut it out with some black cardstock. Isn't that just a pretty font? I'll flip it over here so you can see it. And then I'll add it to another piece of the brushed gold. I'll do that with both of them. I just kind of dabbed off the excess glue so it wouldn't ooze out from behind the sentiment. I'll put some foam tape behind these words and just pop them up on the front of my card. That's all there is to this card. I am going to add a few gemstones. That font is just gorgeous. I'll add this to a white card base, just using more of the liquid glue. All of my card bases in this video are made out of 110-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. And then here is a close-up look at the finished card. I added a few clear enamel dots to this. That brushed gold cardstock is so pretty. Now on to card number 2. And again, I'm going to do some ink blending, starting out with picked raspberry. And then I'm coming in with worn lipstick. And then spun sugar. And then I'm going to add a pop of color, a brightness, with a squeezed lemonade. And then I'm going to flip it around and do the same colors on the other side. And this is kind of a non-traditional Christmas card, but I love involving pink in the holidays. So here it is all done. This time I'm just going to use one of the mosaic panels. I'm putting little dabs of liquid glue behind it. And I did cut this mosaic panel down a little bit beforehand so that it would fit on my card perfectly. I matted it again with a piece of the brushed gold. And then next I'm going to use more of the brushed gold to cut out the brackets. This kind of swoopy piece. I'll carefully pull the die cut out of this panel. And then there will be a little notch at either side that you can just either cut off or just kind of pull apart. I'm going to just pull mine out of the panel. Very easy to do. I'll be cutting this down anyway. So here it is all cut out with the brushed gold. To add some dimension, I am going to put a foam strip behind this bracket piece. I like to take off the release paper so that it can be molded to my piece more easily. In the past, I would cut down my rolls of foam tape into narrow strips like this, but it's so much easier just buying it that way. I'll add this to the top of the mosaic. It's very easy to see where it belongs and then just piece it in place. So let's add this to the card base. This is going to be a landscape orientation card, top folding. I cut these pieces down so that you could see a white border around these two panels. This sentiment I cut out a few times with white cardstock and glued them together. I believe just twice, and I'm just going to put them at the top of the card without the shadow this time. It's going to be kind of a tight squeeze fitting both of these words on the card. Still, I think these sentiments are a nice size because they will fit on your A2 sized cards, as well as your slimline or your A7 sized cards. This time I added some pink gems on the card. So let's do a little bit of hot foiling. I'm getting my machine heated up, but I need to cut out some foil. This color is called Polished Brass. You can cut it out with your scissors, or I happen to have this little trimmer to cut it out with. And I'm just kind of measuring how much I'll need using the hot foiling plate. I'm going to foil this on a piece of blue cardstock called Waterfall. It's from Spellbinders. It's one of their cardstock essentials. So the panel I'm using is 5.5 by 4.25. And I won't be cutting this one down. This card will have no matting. So let's put the plate in position. I'm going to use some tape. I'll reposition this one here, but I'm going to use 2 pieces of the Best Ever Craft tape. And then I can just lift up the plate and slide the polished brass foil underneath. And then it's going to be perfectly aligned. So now that my Glimmer hot foil machine is all heated up and ready to go, I can place this on the base. And then I can put the plastic plates on top and press the button. Once the green light stops flashing, it's ready to go. And then I can pull out the base and run it through very slowly through my Spellbinders die cutting machine. Since it's kind of hot, I'm going to use my magnet tool to lift this plate off and set it on this mat to let it cool down. I'm going to very gently peel off the tape and show you how this turned out. It's just perfect. Isn't that beautiful? I love the blue and the gold together. I wanted to deepen the blue color just a little bit, so I'm adding some peacock feathers to 2 of the corners. This just adds a very pretty touch of interest to the card. I want it to be a little bit deeper, so I'm going to bring in some chipped sapphire. I don't want to completely cover up the peacock feathers, so I'm just bringing it at the very edge of the corners. Isn't that pretty? So I'll use a tissue to wipe the excess ink away from the foiled part of the card. And this step just brightens it back up again. This is going to be another landscape card. And this time I'm going to use my dot liner to attach it to the card base. It was a little bit warped, so I'm going to add a lot of dot liner to it just to flatten it back down on the card base. I'm generously covering it with the dot liner. I went ahead and hot foiled the bracket piece that came in this set onto a piece of white cardstock, so I have that all ready to go. I used the coordinating dies to cut it out. Here it is, and I popped it up with another strip of foam tape. I'll put that in place. I'm going to use a sentiment, and this comes from the Simply Perfect Mix and Match sentiments, and it says hello. I cut it out with white as well as with gold mirror cardstock. And then I'm using the flower, this pretty flower that came from the Joy Crescent card builder. I cut it out with some teal cardstock and more of the mirror gold and just kind of layered that together. I'll pop these up with a foam piece and place these on the side of the card. This is just going to be an any occasion card, a very elegant one. I've seen some really pretty cards using this set, and they layered the mosaic piece over the pinstripe foiling, and it looks really stunning. So they do coordinate just beautifully together. But I didn't want to cover up any of that pretty pinstripe. So here it is all done, and I added a few gold embellishments around the flowers. They are called Fashion Gold embellishments from Spellbinders. Now on to card number 4. This one's going to be a Christmas card. And this, I'm not going to use this piece, but I wanted to show you how beautiful that is. The piece I'm using is the one that says Joy to the World. And I cut that out with some onyx black cardstock. And then I used the coordinating die to cut out another piece with white cardstock. And I'm going to layer these together. So for the ink blending on this card, I wanted it to be green, but kind of a subtle, very muted green. So I'm starting out with antique linen, and then I'm using evergreen bough, and then some black soot. And I want a very smooth, pretty blend with these colors. I just love the way this turned out. I look on Pinterest for distress ink blending ideas, and that's where I got this idea. Behind the stained glass window piece, I'm going to put some crackling campfire. I love crackling campfire. It's such a bright, pretty orangey red. And I'm putting the darkest color behind the words on the die cut. And I'm just going to use a lighter touch around the edges. And then at the very bottom of this, I'm going to use some candied apple. I just wanted it a little bit darker down there. This really punches up the sentiment. So here is what it's going to look like. I'm going to add a little bit more to the edges of this. Isn't that gorgeous? Let's just blend that out just a little bit more. This would be a really fun die cut to use the inlay technique on, where you put different colors of cardstock back into the die cut piece. This time my card base is black, and I cut my panel down so you can see a black matting around it. I'm using some liquid glue to adhere this onto my ink blended piece. I'm going to dab it off first though. I just don't want any of the glue oozing out. And then the liquid glue will give me time to just wiggle it in place. I popped this up with some foam pieces, and I'll center this kind of at the top of my card. And then at the bottom, I'm using more flowers. I cut them out with white cardstock and used crackling campfire and evergreen bough on 2 of them. One I'm going to adhere down to the corner of the window, and the other 2 just go down flat. I added some very subtle embellishments in the centers of the flowers, and this card is all done. It's just very simple, but it doesn't need anything more. That die cut piece is just stunning. Thanks for spending some of your time with me today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll have all of the product links listed in the description box below if you're interested in checking them out. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Take care. Bye.